Hello.
Hello.
Grace.
You're always so impressed with yourself, aren't you?
I'm not going to say, but look at the bird.
Oh,
What,
tell you what.
the rook or Grace?
Well, both.
He's
He's,
awesome. He is
so
awesome.
that is a lovely crow.
It's not a crow.
It is a crow.
Well, it is
Black.
part of the crow family.
It's big. It's black. It's a crow.
So who have we got with us tonight, Grace?
This is Eddie.
And do you want to tell us a little bit about Eddie?
Yeah, 8.5 years old. He was born in Devon, or hatched in Devon. Yes, hatched in Devon.
Has he got a weird accent?
Well, actually, he speaks with my accent.
You forget that you forget that these birds can actually talk, aren't they? They can mimic.
Yeah, and I forgot very much early days. The reason he's captive is because when he was about 4 weeks old, when they're just starting to sort of get their feathers through and practice flying and whatnot, he fell out of the nest, and the tree he was born in is a very beautiful tree in Devon at the Coomartin Wildlife and Dinosaur Park. He fell right out the top of this tree. It must be over 100 foot. Broke his wing on landing. His brothers and sisters came out over the same day, and we had this, because of the layout of the place, there was a family lawn, a big house that we all lived in. We were able to keep an eye on him, because a lot of times what will happen, and what happened with his siblings, the mum and dad came and ushered them into the woods so that they could look after them until they could fly back up into the tree, but they left him behind because he'd broken his wing, and the parents knew that he wasn't going to survive, so they left him. So we watched him for the whole day, right until the evening, just in case they came back, and they didn't. And so I army crawled across the lawn at the very end of the day and did the universal "Are you hungry, baby bird" sign, like this. And he went, "Yes, please." And and that was that. And that was 8.5 years ago.
Wow.
Just before we start talking, guys, Grace has told us we're not allowed to swear because he repeats things.
And not only does he repeat things, he's used for educational purposes. So the last thing we want is to get a bad name for ourselves, because Eddie's going around to a school telling everyone in Danny's accent to F off.
Actually, you know what? Yeah. I must admit, he doesn't actually do a lot of schools anymore because he gets a bit freaked out. He's pretty much sort of semi-retired, but he used to do quite a lot of filming. And on filming, you have to know when to be quiet, which he's not very good at doing. So yeah, if he's going to shout loudly and mess the day up, I'd rather it wasn't a swear word. There would be consequences.
It's important, I suppose, for the listeners who haven't listened to the podcast to go and tell them to check out the podcast that we do with Grace. Grace talks about sort of like all her work, because you've done falconry in the past. You know, you've done a lot of work around birds.
She's worked in the porn industry as well.
Yes, she was involved in midget porn.
I was not regret sharing that story.
but so many fantastic stories. I mean, you've been in and around animals pretty much all your life, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. I actually rehabbed or assisted to rehab my first crow, which was an actual crow. When my neighbor had one fall into her pond, a baby, years ago. I was probably 9 years old when I got my first taste for it. And even back then I was like, oh, I hope I get to have a crow one day.
Okay. So early this afternoon, you were saying that this little fella, Eddie, has got you into trouble quite a few times. Do you want to talk about some of that?
Yeah. So, he's always been really, really good. My life was kind of crazy when I first ended up with him. I was actually up on a recce at the zoo to see if I wanted to go and work there. And that was the weekend he fell out of the tree and came back with me. So he's lived at lots of different zoos, and he would, back then I didn't have a support network of cover keepers that I have now. So if I had to go and visit my granny in Wales or whatever, he'd come in his crate in the back of the car. So he was a very cool dude, very well habituated, unlike now. And he used to come on film jobs with me.
What's he saying?
This is his new favorite thing. And we're not really,
lost.
I think it's him doing an impression of us doing an impression of him. So all meaning and actual pronunciation has gone out the window. He's just
it sounds like he's saying ipna, which is Turkish for homosexual.
That'll work. But yeah. So he used to come out on film jobs with me, because the thing about all the Crow family is, even though they're really, really smart, what?
He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Even though they're really smart, they're very suspicious of new things. So you have to keep them constantly out and about, seeing things and doing things, or they get really freaked out. So he'd come on film jobs even if he wasn't starring. And yeah, back then his favorite phrase was "ow no," which I've been trying to get out of him from when he was a baby, and he would pet me very hard, and I would shout "ow no," forgetting that one day he would learn to mimic. And so he started shouting it very, very loudly. And so we're on a film set with these canaries. Did you ever see a show? It was like a kids' teen show called My Mad Fat Diary.
I don't remember that.
It was like a series. Anyway, it was years ago. But I was there doing loads of canaries. I trained all these canaries fly out of an aviary in the garden, and he just came along for the ride. It was the summertime. We're filming in a real house on the end of a cul-de-sac, and because it was so hot, I had the boot of my car open, and he just sat on the parcel shelf and kind of looked after the canaries for me. And they were filming in the gardens on the other side of this house. Everyone's like really quiet, and the sound mics are so sensitive. They can hear you from the street. Everyone's all quiet and listening. And he was just chatting away like this, but a bit more loudly. And everyone else had been chatting. If you're like, even when you're trying to whisper, you get told off on a film set, you know, shut up, stop talking. They shouted really loudly, the director over the mic, "Will everyone out the back bloody shut up?" And of course he shouts at that moment, goes, "Ow, no!"
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant.
And then I think it's the same year or a year later, I was on one of these, we used to do live events as well. And when I'm a Celebrity was kind of in its heyday, everyone wanted to hire us to do those like I'm a Celebrity challenges, you know, fear boxes, where they put their hand in a box and they can't see what's in there, and they've got to get a token, there's animals in there. And I hate doing these jobs, because it's so difficult to keep people safe, and it's so difficult to control animal welfare. You've got to choose really good animals, you know, that aren't going to get scared when people are being scared in there. Anyway, so we're doing this on a live show, weirdly, for all of the Iceland managers, you know, the superstore. So they were having a big convention, and so they were like pranking their managers, but in front of all the employees or something like that, and drove this big white van, like one of those BT vans, because we were there for the day. He'd come along, and I just set his perch up in the van and let him out his crate, and he was loose in the back of the van all day. And I started seeing all these phone calls on my phone, and I was busy in this theatre, and eventually they sent a person through, because he'd been chatting away and had quite a good vocabulary back then. Somebody thought there was a person locked in the back of the van, and that they were stuck. I had to go out and meet these people. No, it's fine, it's just a bird. And had to write a sign on a bit of paper and gaffer tape it to the outside of the van. Don't worry, it's a talking bird.
Oh, brilliant.
That's brilliant. So is it like budgies and parrots that only the males tend to talk, or is that
boys
nonsense?
and girls both will?
Okay.
Yeah, no, any of them can. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this display he's doing with his tail is more of a male kind of sexy display. And actually, if you pay attention driving along, you'll see rooks on the side of the road at this time of year doing it as well.
It's Dana, isn't it?
It's me, innit? That's what it is. It's me, innit?
Okay.
I'm looking all nice. Yeah.
Danny, I'm just going to remove you for a second. Will he do it?
So
every time he talks, he fans his tail, but he also does a kind of dance where he puts his wings down here.
Danny's gone now, and he's not doing it.
Right, we'll bring him back.
Oh,
You finally found a
hello.
bird impressed with you,
He
mate.
is.
Oh,
He's cool as hell.
That's
Can you?
mad.
Is
You
it?
might
I mean,
get
is
on.
there?
Good boy.
Does he have any? Does he have any? What's the word?
Biting you.
give us
Is
a
there?
clue.
Yeah. Is there any? Does he have like triggers or anything? Can you get him to say certain things?
The only thing he'll ever say, it's not really a cue, but it's become a cue. He's trained me. Is what's up, and we can ask. Can you say? No. Can you say? What's up? Say what's up. Can you say? Of course you can.
What's up?
He's like, there's a camera on me. Bugger off. Eddie, can you say? Can you say? What's up? Say what's up.
It sounds like he's saying,
nah.
"Get lost."
Grace, we've had a
Get lost.
Grace, we've had a question come in from one of our listeners, Paul Ryder. Hi, Grace. Do you have a specific diet for the Rook?
Paul's in asking because he looks after ravens.
Okay.
They're the other crows. They are. They're all black, big crows.
They're the biggest ones.
They're the
Although
biggest.
ravens aren't all black. They're the only other one that, like him, has got the green and blue and purple iridescence. Crows are jet black, but the ravens and rooks both have that oily appearance. The answer to Paul's question is, over the years, I've tried researching rook diets. Nobody seems to have got a definitive diet that everyone agrees on. So I've just based it on my own research with these guys being less like hardcore carnivorous than ravens. And I've sort of figured it out along the line. He has a sort of staple dry mix that I make up, which is made from cat biscuits and those suet pellets that you can buy for garden birds. All different kinds of dried insect mix and whole peanuts in the shells because they're quite good. They're quite enriching for him to smash up. And then I supplement with live insects. He gets a little bit of pasta, a little bit of bread, a little bit of rice, sort of general leftovers, meat bones. And sometimes he'll get mice or chicks, but he's very, very fussy with them.
Chicken
jar.
jar.
When he lived at the we lived
Grace,
at this
before
one
we
zoo,
went,
and the last sorry, go on.
No, before we went live, wasn't you feeding him your dinner tonight?
He had a little bit of squash out of my green curry, yeah. And he's an absolute sucker for a sausage roll, but you know, I'm trying to be careful with anything that's a bit naughty. But I know, right? And he likes to have a bit of whatever we're having to drink, and he's just really likes to have a go at everything, really.
Awesome. Right, so Reese, which is Danny's boyfriend, says that he's took care of a jackdaw, and every time that he's near jackdaws and crows, they all have an anger problem towards his shoes and his feet. Is that a weird bird fetish or something? I can't.
Or is it because his feet stink?
I would ask, can he tell us, are those birds all hand rears that live in captivity? Because if Eddie doesn't like someone that enters the aviary, a lot of times he will attack on the floor, and I've seen ravens do the same thing just because it's a way
if Eddie tries to attack,
intimidating you.
Fried.
So basically, Reese.
I've got a pair of boots that are ruined like you, for a very territorial raven.
Kentucky Fried Eddie.
He often has a go at our cover keeper. He really doesn't like Matt, who comes in and looks after the animals when we're away. And a lot of times he will harass him on the floor to try and chase him out the aviary. But he doesn't. I've heard that
with specific birds that they will have a preference whether they like ladies or they like men. Have you found that working with birds in the past?
Do you know what? I think every time you see that, usually if you ask who, so just reading Paul's thing, goes to the feet of frustrated. Yeah, Paul, I've seen that with ravens I've worked with as well. It's like a displacement behavior. So it's like, I'm really frustrated or angry. I don't know what you want me to do. I'm going to smash something.
Okay. So
but with ones that have preferences, you'll nearly always find that they were hand reared or raised or mostly lived with either a man or a woman.
Yeah.
Or even when you've got men and women in the house, if one or the other hasn't gotten as involved, you can nearly always tell. Like this, he does prefer women. He prefers blondes. But I've found that he's really, really intuitive to my relationships with my friends as well. So if I have a friend come over and it's someone I've known forever or I'm super comfortable, he'll always gravitate to them faster than somebody that I'm not as like sort of casual with.
Comfortable with, yeah. So it just shows they can pick up on that.
Unbelievably intuitive. Yeah. I mean, they're masters of reading body language. So I think that's what it is.
Sean Parsons is saying hi, Grace.
Sean. Sean is one of my buddies from the Madagascar trip.
Yeah, man.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Sean,
and you should talk to him.
Dude. He's a dude.
Yes, he is a dude. And he's got some really interesting animals.
Does he talk for 7 hours in one stretch?
No, he's
most
not
of the people.
Okay, cool.
Because most of the people that went on that trip do
talk so long.
So Ryan,
so far, Phelps, it's actually 100% of people that went on that trip that have spoken to us.
Well, Brad can talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Pete, and well, we know.
Pete Reynolds. Brilliant.
Ryan Costello wants to know what enrichment techniques you use with him. Now, I've seen some of your enclosures, and I'm going to go quiet for a second. I'm going to try and download the video you put on Facebook to put up, if that's okay.
Yeah.
What video is it?
You put it up the other day.
Is it nude?
Yes.
It wasn't nude. I can't put the nude one up.
I put quite a lot of videos of him up, because he's so intelligent. He needs a lot of stuff to do. Yeah, Can you say what's up?
What's up?
He can talk, I promise.
Right.
Oh, you can tell that though.
Right, we're going to give you a year reptile and chill. Badass. That's what he's going to say.
See what I can do. But yeah,
5-star rating. 5-star rating. That's what we want him to say.
So enrichment wise, I make sure he's always got different types of treats in with his food every day. So he's getting different types of food. Like I said, the whole peanuts instead of like loose ones, or different pieces of fruit and things like that. Is
there a lot of just making him work for his food?
Pretty much, because his natural instinct is to like smash and tearing into a carcass, tearing into a rubbish bag, and like he loves smashing and ripping and tearing. So to emulate that, because I personally don't want to have rotting carcasses in my aviary for days.
No, but
hygiene point of view.
They're usually
sometimes
quite
I'll hang a rat
attractive
up from a string, and he'll pull the string up with his feet to get the rat to then work at it, and that'll do for a couple of days. I usually find that the scavengers, which I guess you would call them in the wild, are actually quite intelligent, aren't they? Because I mean, they're obviously drawn to carrion and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
so they do learn to work for their food.
Yeah, and you see a lot of captive corvids that stereotype a lot. So they perform these repetitive behaviours where they've got bored or stressed, because they are quite spooky, stressy animals. Or if they're bored, you'll see them bouncing backward and forward or that kind of thing, which I'm very thankful that he doesn't do, but I cater to him constantly, really. But yeah, so
I can't put
hang a bag up on a string or hide it. And
your videos, you're on private, so I can't
find some and link them.
Yes.
The other thing to do is on Instagram, he's hashtag Eddie the Talking Rook.
He has an Instagram page. Brilliant.
But not a whole page, just a hashtag.
Penny's getting one soon when I start taking her out for walks on her leash and her harness.
You tell Grace all about your cat.
Come on, Bobby. Come on. I've got a harness for my cat, Grace, and these guys think I'm mental. But I'm going to take her on adventures.
Is it a special breed?
Tabby.
Because the fancy show breeds, they do quite well on harnesses.
Come on, Bobby. Come on.
Because they're all a bit dim, aren't they?
She's
just my Tabby.
It's just a regular cat. Amazing. Do you know what though? If you train it right, she'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's all about
take her out on a little harness.
Introducing it and
have a stretch. I woke you up, didn't I? Sorry. I'm going to get her a little. They call them cat packs. It's a backpack that you put the cat in. I'm going to
with a little window, and the cat is like, "Oh God, Yeah,
that's amazing.
my friend has one for their cat.
I'm going to try it this way to show you the enclosure. I don't know if it's going to work. Hang on.
You'll have to just go.
Oh, for what he's in. Oh, there he is. Doing nesting things. So at this time of year, he's so into nesting, I just have to make sure I go out and collect loads of branches and dump them in there so that he's got a choice and lots of things to work with.
Yeah.
At this time of year, he's just so entertained playing with sticks.
Yeah, I
all
saw
day.
the video on the nesting and stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah. Last year, everyone I know on Facebook just lost their minds for it. Like, he's been nesting for a few years, but he started getting fan mail. So all my friends started sending him things in the post, and his name would be on the envelope because he'll open the envelope himself. And he had some reindeer fur from my friend who's a reindeer herder, and he had some dog fur from some friends, and like little scraps of fabric from people I know that are seamstresses. And he was just adding everything in the nest, which was really cute. Enrichment-wise as well, magazines like Yellow Pages, cable tied up, and he'll tear that up.
I just put a message up there that Beth was saying, and she was saying that the incredible problem solvers and some of the studies are really interesting. Now, I remember, I think it was Springwatch, and they did some real big studies on ravens, rooks, and I think they got 3 or 4 of them to work out which was the most intelligent. Yeah.
You know what?
Some of the problem solving was amazing.
An amazing study of they did one with a jay. Have you seen the one with the jay and the human children?
No.
It's so good. So they've got the jay, and obviously it's used to living in captivity. And they've got this test where it's standard, like tube of water. There's a waxworm in the water, but it's too low down to reach. And they've got 3 different choices. They've got stone. They've got like sponge or polystyrene or something like that, and then something that floats in the middle, and they all look the same, the different weights, and they have to choose. And they put the kids of different ages up against the bird, and the bird just smashed it out the park. And you watch these kids, and they're just putting all of them in, and then they can't reach the sweet when it gets to the top, or they put the float, and the bird just puts the one floating one in first and goes, nah, not going to do that again, fills it up with stones and gets the bug off the top. And he matched a 7-year-old child.
Wow,
which is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So similar intelligence as a kid the same age as he is. Is he? Did you say he's 7? So yeah.
He's 8 and a half. 8 and a half. Yeah.
You know what, Mike, you did really well then. I was expecting abuse off you then.
Who?
You missed out on something.
What?
Like a 7-year-old bird. Oh, it's the same IQ as us.
Yeah, I was looking at the bird, mate. My focus isn't on you.
Can I just say as well, we're all holding our pets. So Danny had his cat, obviously.
I can't. I've still got my cat. I can't get rid of her
now.
That's it now. I've woken her up. I've woken her up now. Now she's just shit. That's it now. I can't get rid of her now. If I get her off me, she'll just be back again. She's see, look, she's going off and
I can hear her purring.
She's got the loudest purr in the world, literally.
Right,
she's
so
now biting my lead. Get off.
Paul's saying Loki our Raven has worked out if he nicks a sponge while we're cleaning his aviary, he can trade off for a nice treat. Otherwise, the sponge is history. But it just shows how quick they can pick up on certain things. Yeah, absolutely incredible animals.
Let's talk about the care of ravens and rooks and birds and
crooks
and ravens and cravens
and magpies. I'm sitting here going, I need one of them, right? And I'm not the only person who's watching it because Eddie is absolutely amazing. But why shouldn't I? Should I? What are the requirements of keeping?
Pros and cons.
I mean, it's not. I mean, there are people that breed these guys. I've come across people breeding. And there's obviously more people breeding ravens because people use them in displays and whatnot. But like rooks, and jackdaws and jays, I have seen them being bred. Although they're not really that easy to get hold of. For me personally, Like when I first got him, I had every intention of giving him the option of going back in the wild if he wanted to. You know, if the wing had set properly, or if his family wanted to join his family, because I ended up moving up to Devon, and I let him loose every single day while I was working on the zoo, and we would just shout at each other's contact calls throughout the day. But he chose. They imprint very quickly. But I personally wouldn't feel right, you know, going and raiding a nest or whatever, because this species aren't protected yet. So anyone can go and help themselves out of a nest. But taking an animal that can fly out of the wild is pretty harsh, isn't it? So I'd say if you were going to, you know, you've got to go captive bred really if you're not giving a rescue animal a chance. But the big thing is, have you got time and space? Like we've moved house quite a lot of times, but every single time I've built an aviary big enough to walk in and for him to kind of, because he can fly a little bit, you know, he's got to have that option. Or if you've got a bird that can fly, that's not disabled, are you going to train it and let it fly outside every day? Because if you're not, can you really ethically justify it with a bird that big and that smart?
That's the big thing with it all. I love birds.
Like he's going to live 30, 40 years. They say ravens can go over 40 easy. That's pretty long commitment.
Yeah,
that is a lot.
It needs feeding multiple times a day and the training and all that kind of stuff.
I've wanted to keep a bird of prey since I was probably before I was 10. I remember going into an arena and having one come onto the glove, and I've done numerous bird of prey experiences, but I just know I haven't got the time or, you know, the permissions to go out and fly them, because you need acres and acres and acres and acres of land to go and fly them, and I haven't got that all the time. Well, yeah,
that's it. Like I really miss working with birds of prey every day, and I'm very keen to get one, but in my current setup, it's just I can't do it. But when we move house, I'd hope to. But I would say corvids, they're even more demanding on your time than a bird of prey, because of the intelligence and because of the different ways that they forage for food, and they're very social as well. So if you are ending up with a hand rear, are you going to be able to spend time with it every single day so that you're not abusing it mentally and emotionally? And that's the hardest thing. And we're very lucky that he's such a seasonal bird. Like in the winter, you can see he's like really cuddly and he loves coming in. Lucky for me, in the summer, he doesn't want to know. He won't touch you. You have to just, you know, and he doesn't want to step on, and he's happy being out in the aviary all evening, which is great, because obviously I'm busier, longer working hours, and I'm really lucky. But that's not the same necessarily with an imprint raven. So you then have to think, are we going to get a couple so that they, you know, I would love for him to have a friend, because I do worry when it's colder. He, you know, in the wild, he'd be snuggling up to someone else to keep warm. And when it's really cold, we bring him in and we crate him overnight, and he's got a heat lamp in the aviary as well. But, you know, when I'm not here, I think, oh, is he actually okay out there? And I'm pretty sure he is, because we can watch him from the kitchen window and we see him having a lovely time. But
and there's there's thousands out there. There's thousands out there in the wild having a great time without a heat lamp.
Well, yeah, he hates other birds, but
I have
when pigeons land on the aviary, he goes mad, screaming at them and trying to stab them.
Ryan Cox wants to know: are ravens related to magpies?
Yes, they are.
They are, yeah.
They all
so in this country, the corvids we've got, ravens are the biggest. Then you've got crows, and if you go up to Scotland, you've got the hoodies. You know, they're like dark grey and black ones, which we don't have here in England. And then you've got magpies and rooks. Rooks are a bit bigger than magpies. Crows are bigger than rooks. And then the little kind of grey ones with the blue eyes, those are your jackdaws. And then slightly smaller again are the beautiful jays. Mike's got some fabulous pictures of.
That are really, really shy.
I've lived with one of those before, and aren't they? But you can hear them, can't you? So you
really noisy.
Yeah. And then there's also one called the chuff, which are not as common about the towns, and they're smaller and darker, and you wouldn't think that they were a corvid, but
I have a very important and serious question.
You're not having it.
And I feel like it's one that has to be asked. Does it shit everywhere?
That's a really good reason to not get a pet bird of any kind.
So the answer is yes. It shits everywhere. If he needs a shit, he just shits.
Oh yeah,
I'm swearing.
Constant. yeah,
I
please
forgot about
don't.
that.
Do you know what though? Luckily, you're in my ear. I've got my earbud in, so hopefully.
Okay, that's fine.
In fact, look, here's a classic example. Look, I've got a turd on my foot right now. I'm treading on one in my sock. And he's just let one go there. Thank you, buddy. The way we contain it, and it worked really well for the first few years. The last 2 seasons in the house, he's gone a bit independent and a bit. He's got a perch at the breakfast bar, so he can hang with us when we're in the kitchen, and he's also got one on a coffee table next to the sofa, so he's got his own seat. And we've done the base wide enough that it catches everything. And usually he's very, very good, and he knows he won't come off the seat elated. So that's how we kind of manage it as best we can. And laminate flooring.
Yeah.
But you know, so the aviary takes a lot of hosing, and the house takes up a lot of spraying and floor cleaning. But you know what? It helps me live a tidier life, I suppose.
Grace, obviously we've spoke loads about Eddie, but I can see in the background, and I know you're not getting any out tonight, but you've got some vivs and setups in the background. What have you got in those setups?
So just behind me, what you can see is, can you see? There's 3 along there. In this big squarish one, I've got a very ancient little checkered garter snake, who I think he's now the longest standing in my collection. I got him from my very first trip to Ham about 12 or 13 years ago. Wow. So he's in there, still going strong and telling me when it's feeding day. And then in the middle, the one with the twisty bits coming up, there we are. I've got millipedes in there. And they're the giant ones that love climbing up on the branches. Not very many people give them the choice to climb, but they blooming love it. In the other end one, which you can't see very well, because all my lights have gone off because it's late in the evening, so sorry you can't see in there. I've got a praying mantis in there. There's a box up on top that's got some bumblebee millipedes and some domino roaches in. And then this long one at the back has got a Eurymastix. And then down the bottom, in that, there's a boa constrictor. And then across the way, up there's a bit more.
Like a menagerie.
There we go.
Yeah, along the top, there's like a mixture of roaches and beetles. 3 tarantulas along up there and some emperor scorpions. Oh, it's another tarantula on the end in that tall one. Ridley's cave racer and another boa.
Nice.
And there's some grass snakes on the other side of the room. And actually, over there is a what's in there? A flipping what's it called?
Snake.
Come on.
We need to remix that.
Morelia in there.
Your ma. Your ma.
It's a Gredel's python. Gredel's python.
Oh, nice.
And some leopard geckos. Yeah,
Nice,
leopard geckos and a giant frog as big as a teapot as well. Very nice.
But who would win out of a fight? Giant frog the size of a teapot or Eddie?
Who or Eddie?
Who would win the fight? Giant frog the size of a teapot or Eddie?
Eddie would win. Yeah. Eddie would win.
Yeah. That beak's quite formidable, isn't it?
That's it. And you know he's
it just hurled abuse at him. Your ma. Your ma. Your ma.
Yeah. So he really loves going down the bottom and keeping an eye on the boa that's in there. There's an albino boa constrictor, and he just always is obsessed with looking at him and keeping an eye. But if I was to touch that glass to get him out, he excuses himself. Oh, he knows. He always leaves the room if the snake comes out. And when one of my Burms, which is also an albino, was smaller and lived more ground, he was always looking at her. So I don't know if it's the colour or if he thinks it's the same snake he's had a relationship with all these years. But he definitely knows. He likes to have a good look.
Grace, Emma's asking, hey Grace, do you house small invert species together in the same vivs?
Small?
Hi,
some?
Emma.
Do you house some? Sorry. I've got
the
old age. No, it's the old age.
One
Can't
question he reads out and he fluffs it.
I'm quite big on mixing. I like isopods and sort of stuff like that in with all my tarantulas and scorpions, just because they keep the soil nice and all that kind of stuff. And I've got my hissing cockroaches are mixed in with darkling beetles and 3 different types of isopod. And I have put them in with giant millipedes as well, and they seem to work really, really well together.
I'm doing my experiment again now. Really do it.
Yeah, they seem to work with those kinds of things. I think so long as you're providing the right habitat for everything, you know, if they're all from the same habitats and you can provide different areas for them, you know, it can work. What are you doing?
I see. It's really weird. See, obviously you're used to it, and this is like.
Did you hear that? We got what's up.
Oh,
can you say? Oh, what's up?
Your
mum.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's what that sounded like.
Can you say? Oh, he looked like he was about to have a party then. He sometimes has a party on your arm and does the full display and gets really chatty, which would be very nice.
Grace, I'm going to have to apologise because my mother-in-law keeps on using this as a way of talking to me. So when you see strange messages like, "Oh, these are my pajamas that she bought me for Christmas,"
amazing. I love
and she
that.
usually asks me if she's got any posted or anything like that. She's a little bit senile, bless her, and we're just trying to find a home for her at this moment.
I think when I come back from Poland, we should allow you the day off, and me and Danny should interview your mother-in-law.
Do you know what's really strange though? Obviously, she shares the account with her husband, who never ever uses Facebook. So it comes up, Stan Check It, and then she sends me loads of hearts, and people are like, "Who's this Stan Check It guy?" But that's my lovely mother-in-law there, bless her.
Right then, so 37 minutes in. It's going to be an early night for us tonight, lads.
And all I've done is laugh at that bird. That's just great.
It's brilliant.
I mean, it's like another thing to you. It's like, but to me, I'm really struggling to contain myself, like just cracking up at that thing.
We sort of forget because it is normal to us, and we just sort of work around him. But he does get to know friends that come over regularly and sort of spend more time. Can you say? Oh,
so yeah, I can say this.
I'm going to get this on video. I'll bet if I stepped out of the room, he'll go nuts on here, and he'll give you loads of words. And he might
go then. Off you go.
It.
Yep. Shoot.
Let's see.
Eddie, Mom.
No, don't say anything. Don't say anything.
It's only fun.
If somebody comes on this live stream for the first time ever, and they'll just see a talking rook.
Right. Look at, he's so confused. Like, where have you got?
Oh yeah, I'll just move the cushions.
Oh yeah, I just moved that. There.
Oh, what's that newspaper? Get the newspaper.
Oh yeah. Oh, she come. Oh, hello.
He's really showing me up today. He's useless.
He's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't move anything. What cushion?
He's like,
what are you talking about?
I think he could see me peeping around the kitchen door. I think. He just knows if you're trying to catch him out.
Oh, he's brilliant.
Really does.
He's awesome.
Sorry, guys, that was
awesome.
Rubbish.
I really want an Eddie.
You can't have one.
Oh, I have a really bad story actually. When I was younger, I had a similar experience. Magpie fell out of the tree, and I knew that my uncle had a crow in the past, and I thought, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to bring it up by hand. And there was a guy who was, I was probably, 13, 14. There was a guy a lot older than us. You know, them guys that shouldn't be hanging around with the kids, but he was. And I had it in my inside pocket, and I'd only had it like a day or two. And I showed it him, and he wrung its neck straight away. And he went, "They kill all the songbirds, they do." And I just went,
Oh my
like
God.
absolutely cried my eyes.
Scarred for life.
Oh, I never ever forget it.
It's horrible what some people do. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. Horrendous. But yeah, it broke my heart.
I bet I put some hair in your chest and it helps.
He's not that hairy.
But you know, there are still people that catch magpies. They'll catch one in a trap and then they keep them in a tiny bird cage to lure others in to one of those ones where they can get in and can't get out. I didn't think people even did that, or I don't even know if it's legal anymore. And I only saw it on a farm up the road from where I live a few years ago. One of our vultures got spooked and buggered off. So while we're going around all the neighbouring farmers looking for her, I had phoned us in and said, oh yeah, I've got your vulture in a tree. So we went over and we saw one of these traps with a magpie in, just in this old disused caravan. I thought, oh my God, I wanted to sneak back in the night and let him go if it wasn't for his terrifying guard dogs. But horrible. And foxes caught on snares all in the bushes around the perimeter of his property, and that horrible.
Yeah. You have vultures.
I used to work with vultures. Yeah, I've been very, very lucky.
Okay. Do you like them, Dana?
Deflated, yeah. That would be cool as shit.
Oh, I love a vulture.
Like,
put
the rook away, get the vulture out.
Get the vulture out.
Guys, I think our listeners need to purchase loads of our merchandise so we can afford to buy a little bit more holding. And we can have otters, we can have vultures. I suppose you can have beavers.
Save the beaver.
Can I say as well, this is what I have to put up with, guys. If I get rid of that brand, right?
Support the beaver. You can see who are not the sensible ones.
Beavers are brilliant, Hoss.
No, Grace, do you like beavers? No, you don't.
Like
no, you don't. No, you don't. Right?
How can you not like beavers?
Do you like breathing?
Oh, stop!
I've heard your theory on beavers. It's not watertight.
No, it's not.
It's not watertight.
Grace,
beavers have gnawed in, and
it's barely water resistant, let alone watertight. Like, you know, do you remember years ago when you used to get a Casio watch and it goes water resistant to 2 meters?
Yeah.
And even that was questionable, wasn't it?
First time you wash your hands. Oh, just packed up.
Yeah.
Right, I will type up exactly what beavers are.
When?
Badminton
No.
tails.
Goofy otters. You're just coming on here now, are you? Can you behave this time instead of
Stewie Stewpot. Goofy badminton tail. That's his name for beavers.
And I'm not.
You're a bad man.
I'm not being dyslexic. I know I spelled badminton wrong, but I had a character limit and I had to
improvise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. If you want that on a t-shirt, I can make it happen.
Oh, yes. Mike is an old friend of mine as well, so thanks for coming along, mate, and tuning in.
Yeah, man. Right, okay. So apart from too much beer. Apologise.
Oh God, you're such a grimmer.
Right then.
Get a life.
It's tragic, as you said the other day.
It's so tragic.
Grace.
No, you need to listen to the podcast.
Right. All I'll say is that beavers eat trees. Trees give us oxygen. We need oxygen. If we have beavers in the UK even more, we're all going to suffocate and die. And I'm leaving it at that.
And we'll all have no guard. We'll have no garden fences either, will we?
Well, houses. you save up, buy that little small hole, and build a log cabin. Beavers are going to eat
it. You are something else, you are.
Right. Anyways, listen to our weekly Reptile podcast on reptileandchill.com, Spotify or Apple Podcast. There's a banner at the bottom going down like that, and then back again like that. But basically, support our podcast. Head on over to reptileandchill.com. Look at our hoodies and t-shirts for sale. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're on Facebook or YouTube, so please go and check us out on Instagram as well at the handle at Reptile and Chill. And about that, I need to go to bed. So,
Is Grace anybody you want to give a shout out to or plug anything at all?
Yes, you can follow Eddie on the hashtag Eddie the Talking Rook if you want to see more what he's up to and how I care for him. And have a look on my channel on there, which is at Grace Dickinson's Wildlife. We're also on Facebook if you look up Reptiles ETC, and you can see what we get up to on there as well.
Etc.
Grace, can we say a massive thank you for coming on? I know you have just come back from the dojo and raced back just in time to have a bit to eat and get on the live show with Eddie. So we really appreciate it.
One last time, what's up? Go.
Can you say what's up? Say what's up. Can you say
fuck off?
He's falling asleep, guys. He's so sleepy.
Oh, bless. But I tell you what, you can really see the colour when you zoom in there, and you can really see the colour in his the iridescence in his feathers.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Stunning.
I'm going to see if I can film him doing some of his words so that you have to believe me.
Right.
So thanks for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Just before you go, Eddie.
Yeah.
Eddie, I love you. Bye.
He can't hear you.
Eddie, I love you. Bye. I love you.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Love you. Bye.
Okay.
Imagine if he started saying that. Love you.
You
bye.
got a very disapproving look there. I've been trying to. He won't say good night. He hears night night every single night. He's never picked it up.
Right.
But other things, naughty words, he hears it once and then that's it.
That's what we're striving for. Then that's what we're striving for. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
6 months. 6 months. That's your challenge, Grace.
I'm gonna listen.
Can we say thanks to all the listeners as well for tuning in tonight? It was a little bit later tonight at a 9 o'clock show. It was because we have a fantastic podcast that's coming out on Monday, and the guy is out in Africa, so it works well with him. I'm not going to say any more.
Don't give him credit because he let us down.
He did let us down.
He's a letdown. He's a letdown.
But we recorded that before this show tonight. Grace was good enough to come on later, and we had our guest on the podcast earlier. Talks about all his work in Africa, which is really, really cool. So check that out on Monday.
Well, then, Grace.
Yes.
We're going now. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Night.
Love you. Bye.